The early dusk painted the skyline of a sprawling American metropolis with hues of amber and rose as the city's modern pulse clashed with the ancient whispers of its untamed outskirts. Rhea, a fiercely independent woman with a turbulent past, navigated these contradictory worlds with quiet determination. Though she worked a mundane job in a corporate firm by day, her nights were shrouded in mystery, a mystery that would soon intertwine her destiny with that of Jorak, the enigmatic alpha of a long-hidden shifter pack. In the secluded depths of the urban sprawl, beneath neon lights and glass towers, lay a secret society that had survived for centuries. Rhea's latent connection to this society was unbeknownst to her until fate intervened one fateful evening. While leaving work on a chilly autumn night, she found herself inexplicably drawn to a derelict industrial park at the city's edge, a place where the echoes of the past mingled with the energy of the present. There, amidst the crumbling relics of a bygone era, her life would change forever. Jorak, with his piercing, burning gaze and commanding presence, had long guarded his territory. His lineage was marked by power, loss, and an unquenchable desire for redemption. Haunted by a tragedy that had scarred him deeply, Jorak had dedicated his existence to the preservation of his people, a duty that often left him isolated and conflicted. That night, as Rhea inadvertently trespassed into his realm, their eyes met in a charged silence. Jorak saw in her not only a rebellious spirit, but also the spark of hope that could mend the fractures of his soul. Yet to Rhea, his intense stare was not an invitation, but a proclamation of control. "Who are you to wander in these forsaken lands?" Jorak's voice, low and resonant like distant thunder, broke the silence as he stepped out of the shadows. His tone was both an accusation and a question, a challenge that reverberated with ancient authority. Rhea's heart pounded in her chest as she struggled to find her voice. I don't belong here," she stammered, her eyes narrowing with defiance. "I was just passing through." But Jorak was not one to be easily swayed. His presence was overwhelming, and every movement he made seemed laden with unspoken burdens. "You have already intruded into a world you cannot comprehend," he replied, his gaze unyielding. "I see something in you, something that connects you to a destiny beyond your imagining." The clash between them was immediate, a tempest of conflicting emotions. Rhea, feeling both the pull of a dangerous allure and the sting of captivity, felt an inexplicable bond forming even as she rebelled against his control. Jorak, for his part, was struck by the duality of her nature, a resilient spirit marred by pain yet unbroken by the trials of life. It was as if she embodied the very essence of the struggle between freedom and fate. As the night deepened, Jorak led Rhea through a labyrinth of abandoned factories and overgrown pathways, each step further erasing the boundary between the civilized and the wild. Amid the rustle of leaves and the distant rumble of volcanic echoes, remnants of an ancient cataclysm that had shaped the land, Rhea began to sense the weight of secrets buried in the soil. The ground itself, scarred by past eruptions and dark histories, seemed to resonate with the emotions coursing through her veins. Over a crackling fire beneath a starlit sky, Jorak revealed fragments of his past, a history steeped in betrayal and remorse. "My people once trusted a man who sought to harness our power for his own gain," he murmured, his voice quivering with suppressed sorrow. "That betrayal cost us dearly. I vowed to protect what remained, even if it meant sacrificing parts of myself." Rhea listened intently, her guarded exterior softening as the raw vulnerability in his words pierced the veil of her own defiance. "And what of your own pain?" she asked quietly. "Do you not feel betrayed by fate itself?" His eyes flickered with a mixture of regret and hope. "Fate is a fickle master, Rhea. It intertwines our lives in ways we cannot predict. I see your pain, your struggle against the chains of expectation, and perhaps in your defiance lies the chance for my own redemption." As the fire cast dancing shadows on their faces, the tension between captor and captive transformed into a charged intimacy, a delicate dance of power, passion, and profound sorrow. Rhea's inner monologue wrestled with a torrent of emotions. Part of her yearned for freedom, to break away from the invisible shackles that had defined her life. Yet another part, an echo of a long-forgotten connection to a world beyond the mundane, drew her inexorably closer to Jorak. His touch, when it finally met hers in a hesitant caress, sparked a conflagration of desire and uncertainty. Their conversation was punctuated by moments of silence where the unsaid loomed larger than any words. The night air, heavy with the scent of burning wood and distant ash, seemed to carry the weight of their intertwined destinies. Rhea found herself grappling with the notion that perhaps the Alpha's burning gaze was not merely an instrument of domination, but a mirror reflecting the complexities of her own soul. Yet, beneath this burgeoning intimacy lay a web of secrets and betrayals that had the power to shatter the fragile peace. Unbeknownst to Rhea, her lineage was entangled with the legacy of the Shifters, a heritage that had been obscured by generations of family secrets. Her parents, estranged and shrouded in mystery, had once been part of a clandestine group that sought to balance the supernatural with the everyday. Their abrupt disappearance and the subsequent cover-up had left Rhea with more questions than answers. In Jorak, she saw not only a captor but also a possible key to unraveling the mysteries of her past. The narrative of that night was far from linear. It wove together elements of passion and peril, ambition and regret, setting the stage for a journey where every step held the promise of discovery or devastation. Rhea's inner turmoil grew as she recalled fleeting memories, a childhood marked by unexplained absences, cryptic conversations, and a lingering sense of being different. Now, standing face to face with a being whose very nature defied the boundaries of human experience, she was forced to confront the possibility that her life was part of a larger, more intricate tapestry. The city around them, vibrant and indifferent, provided a stark contrast to the raw, elemental power that had been awakened in that forsaken park. Modernity and myth converged in unexpected ways. Skyscrapers loomed like sentinels over ancient burial grounds, and the hum of urban life blended with the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. This duality echoed in Rhea's conflicted thoughts, her yearning for normalcy clashing with the undeniable pull of her supernatural heritage. As dawn began to hint at its arrival, the fragile alliance between Rhea and Jorak was put to the test. A sudden tremor shook the earth, a reminder that the dormant volcanoes scattered across the country were never truly at rest. The ground beneath their feet vibrated with a premonition of the chaos to come. In that charged moment, the two realized that nature itself was preparing to unleash its fury, and with it, the hidden forces that governed their fates. "I cannot promise you safety, nor certainty," Jorak confessed as the tremors subsided, his voice laden with both warning and longing. "But if we are to survive what lies ahead, we must confront the shadows of our past and the betrayals that have defined us." Rhea's reply was a defiant whisper, yet it carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken truths. "I will not be confined by the choices made for me," she declared, her eyes reflecting the firelight and a fierce determination to reclaim her autonomy, even if it meant challenging the very being who held her captive. Their dialogue, a blend of heated confrontation and tentative understanding, set the stage for an unfolding epic that would force both characters to confront the duality of love and captivity, passion and pain. The raw energy of their exchange resonated with the ancient land they stood on, a land scarred by volcanic fury and human folly, yet resilient in its capacity for rebirth and redemption. As the first light of day began to edge away the lingering darkness, Rhea and Jorak found themselves at a crossroads. The choice between surrender and resistance, between accepting a predestined fate and forging a new path, loomed large. The earth, still trembling with the echo of its ancient memories, seemed to mirror the internal chaos of their souls. In that fragile interlude between night and day, the true nature of their bond was laid bare, a connection forged not solely through the heat of passion but tempered by the cold reality of betrayal, loss, and the desperate search for redemption. Both knew that the journey ahead would be fraught with peril and heartache, and yet, beneath the layers of fear and uncertainty, there glimmered a spark of hope. A hope that perhaps, together, they could rewrite the stories written in the ashes of their pasts. The promise of an uncertain future mingled with the lingering embers of a forbidden intimacy as they prepared to step into a world where every secret had its price, and every revelation carried the weight of legacy. With the urban skyline awakening behind them and the wild, untamed lands calling in the distance, Ria's internal conflict reached a crescendo. Would she succumb to the chains of her predetermined destiny, or could she rise and claim the freedom that had long eluded her? In that moment, with the first hints of dawn caressing the horizon, the stage was set for a journey that would test the limits of love, loyalty, and redemption. Every heartbeat, every tremor in the earth carried the promise of transformation, a transformation that would not only redefine their own lives, but also challenge the very fabric of the supernatural world they were part of. The narrative, poised on the brink of a dramatic upheaval, beckoned the audience into a realm where every shadow concealed a secret, and every spark could ignite a revolution of the soul. Ria's struggle was just beginning, and the path ahead was as uncertain as it was perilous. With the silent promise of change etched into every whisper of the wind, the first chapter of their intertwined destinies drew to a close, leaving questions unanswered and hearts yearning for the next revelation. In the aftermath of that fateful night, as the city's skyline stirred awake beneath the gentle caress of early sunlight, Ria found herself torn between memories and the unyielding call of destiny. The urban morning was a stark reminder of the duality that had come to define her life, a world of cold, calculated modernity juxtaposed with the passionate, unpredictable forces of the supernatural. As she walked through the bustling streets of downtown, every step echoed with the weight of her newfound connection to Jorak and the knowledge that nothing would ever be the same. The events of the previous night replayed in her mind like fragmented dreams, a dangerous interplay of defiance, longing, and the unmistakable aura of ancient secrets. The industrial park, with its crumbling facades and wild overgrowth, had transformed into a canvas on which fate had inscribed its cryptic message. Ria's heart, still aflame with the memory of that charged encounter, now beat in rhythm with an uncertain future. Later that morning, in a modest apartment tucked away in a quieter neighborhood, Ria tried to make sense of the revelations. While the city roared outside with the relentless pulse of modern life, within her, a storm raged, a storm fueled by questions of identity and purpose. The murmur of everyday life around her contrasted sharply with the turbulent emotions inside. She sat at a small wooden table by the window, a half-drunk cup of coffee growing cold as she scrawled notes and sketches in a battered notebook. Each scribbled line was an attempt to capture the elusive fragments of a past that now seemed more intricate than ever. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime from her phone, a message from an unknown number. The text was brief, but laden with cryptic urgency. "The truth lies beneath the ash. Meet me where the earth still speaks." Ria's pulse quickened. Was it a clue left behind by her parents or a dangerous invitation from a world she barely understood? Her mind raced with possibilities as she recalled tales from her childhood, stories of family secrets whispered in hushed tones during long winter nights. These were the legends of a hidden lineage that merged the mundane with the mystical, a legacy that Ria had long dismissed as mere folklore. Determined to seek answers, Ria decided to revisit the industrial park, the threshold where her life had irrevocably changed. With cautious resolve, she slipped away from the confines of her apartment, the weight of the unknown pressing on her shoulders. The city's busy rhythm gave way to a quieter, almost reverent silence as she approached the outskirts, a landscape where time seemed suspended, and every rusted beam and shattered window bore witness to the passage of generations. Meanwhile, miles away and hidden within the labyrinthine alleys of a historic district, Jorak wrestled with his own demons. His nocturnal duties had taken him deep into the wilderness, where ancient rituals and modern conflicts intermingled. The memories of that charged night with Ria had awakened emotions he had long kept at bay, a potent mixture of hope and despair. In the solitude of his ancestral lair, carved into the rugged side of a dormant volcano, he stared at an old family portrait. The faded image of his once thriving pack and the visage of a man burdened by regret haunted him. His lineage was steeped in tragedy, the scars of betrayal and lost love marking each generation. The weight of legacy was a constant companion, and the glimpse of Ria's defiant spirit had stirred something profound within him. a desperate yearning to right the wrongs of the past. Jorak's thoughts were interrupted by the distant sound of approaching footsteps. He moved silently through the shadowed corridors of his sanctuary, aware that each moment was a delicate balance between vulnerability and strength. There was something undeniably magnetic about the connection he felt with Rhea, and yet the enormity of their intertwined fates loomed like a specter over every decision. The pain of his past, the burden of secrets, and the unspoken promises of redemption, all converged in a singular, fragile hope, a hope that perhaps love could heal even the deepest wounds. Back in the urban sprawl, Rhea's return to the industrial park was marked by an eerie calm. The once familiar ruins now exuded an unsettling energy, as if the earth itself whispered cautionary tales of ancient conflicts. The sky overhead was overcast, casting long shadows across broken concrete and tangled vegetation. As she walked along a narrow pathway lined with remnants of forgotten eras, every sound seemed amplified. The crunch of gravel underfoot, the rustle of leaves in the sigh, wind and the distant, almost imperceptible hum of something otherworldly. Suddenly, from the depths of a narrow corridor between two collapsed structures, a voice called out softly, "Rhea!" The sound was barely audible, yet it carried an undeniable familiarity that sent shivers down her spine. She hesitated, her eyes darting in search of the source, until a figure emerged from the gloom. It was an elderly woman with eyes that shimmered like molten silver, her presence exuding both wisdom and sorrow. Draped in a faded shawl and adorned with symbols that hinted at a rich, mysterious heritage, the woman beckoned Rhea closer. "Who are you?" Rhea demanded, her voice trembling slightly, not with fear, but with an overwhelming need for answers. The old woman smiled gently, her gaze penetrating as if she could see the very depths of Rhea's soul. "I am Mara," she replied, her voice soft yet unwavering. "I was once entrusted with guarding the secrets of our kind, secrets that have been hidden for centuries. You, my dear, carry the blood of those who dared to defy fate." Her words, imbued with the gravity of untold stories, resonated deeply within Rhea. Mara led Rhea to a secluded corner of the park, where nature had reclaimed much of the forgotten structures. There, in the midst of overgrown ivy and crumbling stone, lay a small stone altar covered in ancient runes. "These symbols," Mara explained, tracing a weathered finger over the inscriptions, "are the legacy of your family, a legacy built on both sacrifice and resilience. Your parents believed that one day the truth would emerge from the ashes." Rhea's mind whirled with questions about her own identity, the fate of her parents, and the role she was destined to play in a saga that spanned generations. As the conversation deepened, Mara recounted the history of the shifters, the fragile balance between the supernatural and the human world, and the betrayals that had sown discord among them. "There was a time when our kin lived in harmony with the mortal realm," Mara said, her voice heavy with melancholy. "But greed, power, and the scars of old wounds have torn us apart. Yet, even in our darkest hours, hope persisted." Her eyes met Rhea's, conveying a silent plea for understanding and renewal. "You must reclaim that hope, Rhea. Not just for yourself, but for all who have been forgotten by time." The weight of Mara's words settled over Rhea like a shroud. She felt the stirrings of something ancient within her, a call to action, an invitation to confront a destiny she had long denied. "But what must I do?" she whispered, the vulnerability in her tone belying the fierce determination that was beginning to take shape. Mara's response was measured and deliberate. "The path ahead is fraught with danger and heartbreak. You will need to confront the ghosts of your past, the demons that haunt both your family and our kind. And you must seek out Jorak, the Alpha who holds a key to the answers you seek. His journey mirrors your own, and together you may yet unlock the redemption that has eluded us for so long." At that moment, the earth trembled once more, a subtle, almost imperceptible vibration that sent ripples through the very fabric of the park. The ground beneath their feet seemed to pulse with an ominous rhythm, echoing the ancient heartbeat of the land. Ria's eyes widened with apprehension, and even Mara's seasoned expression betrayed a hint of concern. "The volcanoes. They stir," Mara murmured, her voice barely a whisper. "It is as if the land itself is warning us." Determined yet wary, Ria resolved to embrace the destiny that lay before her. With every fiber of her being, she vowed to unravel the mysteries of her lineage and to face the darkness that threatened not only her world, but the very essence of the supernatural realm. The conversation with Mara had unlocked a new realm of possibilities, a realm where the past and present converged in a tapestry woven with betrayal, love, and the promise of redemption. As the tremors subsided, Ria felt a renewed sense of purpose. The enigmatic message on her phone, the cryptic symbols on the ancient altar, and Mara's solemn revelations had all converged to form a singular, inescapable truth. Her fate was irrevocably bound to that of Jorak and the legacy of her ancestors. The answers she sought, however, would not come easily. They lay hidden beneath layers of secrets, waiting to be uncovered in a confrontation that would test the limits of her strength and resolve. At that pivotal moment, as dusk began to paint the sky with the promise of night, Ria prepared to leave the park. Her mind churned with thoughts of the dangerous journey ahead, a journey that would force her to confront not only the mysteries of her past, but also the complex web of relationships that defined her world. The lingering question, echoing in the silence of the fading day, was whether she could truly find solace and redemption in a realm torn apart by betrayal and ancient grudges. With the weight of destiny pressing upon her, Ria's steps carried her back to the city, each stride a defiant declaration against the forces that sought to define her. In that moment of transition, as the urban landscape welcomed her return with its indifferent embrace, an unsettling realization took root. The tremors in the earth had not ceased entirely. They were merely the harbingers of a far greater upheaval. Somewhere beyond the familiar contours of the city, the volcanoes rumbled with the promise of cataclysm, and with them, a reckoning that would challenge the very fabric of her existence. A sudden flash of movement caught her eye, a shadow slipping silently through the ruins, as if following her every step. Was it a guardian of the ancient ways, or a harbinger of further danger? Ria could not tell, but the unease that gripped her heart was unmistakable. With the mystery deepening and the land itself seemingly poised on the brink of transformation, she knew that every decision she made from this point forward would carry immeasurable consequences. As twilight gave way to the velvet embrace of night, Ria stood at the crossroads of fate and free will. Every sound, the distant murmur of the restless city, the rustling of leaves in the cool evening breeze, and the faint echo of volcanic rumblings, wove together a tapestry of uncertainty and hope. The world, both modern and mystical, awaited her next move, its secrets whispering in the dark, urging her onward toward an uncertain impasse. In the weeks that followed her eerie encounter with Mara, Ria found herself drawn deeper into a labyrinth of secrets and ancient grudges. The once familiar urban landscape now held hidden messages in every shadow, every glimmer of light. Every time she closed her eyes, the crumbling relics of that industrial park merged with the city's neon pulse, and she could almost hear the heartbeat of the earth whispering forgotten truths. The tremors that had rattled the ground that fateful night had left an indelible mark on her soul, a relentless reminder that the world around her was far more alive and perilous than she had ever imagined. During a sleepless night in her small apartment, Ria pored over the cryptic notes and sketches from her encounter with Mara. Her fingers traced the delicate patterns of the ancient runes, each symbol pulsating with a silent energy that defied explanation. In that fragile moment between wakefulness and dreams, the weight of her lineage pressed upon her, as if generations of secrets were converging in a single blinding flash. A distant memory, a half-forgotten lullaby from her childhood, whispered in her mind, urging her to seek the truth buried beneath layers of deceit. Determined to uncover the mysteries that had haunted her bloodline, Ria arranged a clandestine meeting with an old family friend, Elias, who had once been close to her estranged parents. Elias, a reserved yet perceptive man with eyes that carried the sorrow of unspoken truths, had long harbored suspicions about the official narrative of her family's disappearance. Meeting in a dimly lit cafe tucked away in a historic district, Their conversation unfolded like a tapestry, woven with both regret and hope. "You must understand, Rhea," Elias began, his tone measured as he sipped his coffee. "Your parents were entangled in a conflict that spanned beyond what any mortal could fathom. They were guardians of a secret, a covenant between our world and something older, something supernatural." His words struck Rhea with a mixture of dread and longing. They believed that one day, the truth would rise from the ashes of betrayal and restore balance. "I always hoped you'd be the one to carry that flame." Rhea's eyes shimmered with a mix of sorrow and defiance. "But why keep it hidden? Why allow our family to be torn apart by secrets that should have united us?" she asked, her voice quivering with the weight of her own unresolved pain. Elias leaned forward, his expression earnest. "Because power corrupts, and those who seek to control it will do anything to silence the truth. There are factions, hidden among us, who want to see the supernatural enslaved, their true nature masked by lies. Your parents paid a heavy price for daring to defy them." As Elias's words echoed in her mind, a sudden knock on the cafe's door startled them. Elias's eyes flickered with caution before he quickly excused himself, urging Rhea to remain seated. The door creaked open to reveal a stranger, cloaked in a heavy overcoat, the collar pulled high against the chill. The stranger's eyes met Rhea's with an intensity that froze her in place. "Miss Rhea," the stranger said, voice low and urgent, "you have something that belongs to us." Before Rhea could react, the stranger slipped a small, intricately carved talisman onto the table. Its design was unmistakable, a fusion of ancient symbols and modern insignia, pulsating with an energy that sent shivers down her spine. The talisman seemed to radiate memories, its surface etched with secrets of battles fought and alliances forged in the shadows of history. Rhea grasped it, feeling an unexpected warmth, as if it were a living remnant of a past she was destined to reclaim. Elias returned at that moment, his eyes widening at the sight of the talisman in Rhea's hand. "That is a relic from the old world, one that was meant to guide you," he murmured. "It's said to contain the key to unlocking the ancestral bond you share with our kind." In that instant, Rhea realized that her quest for answers was far from over. It was only beginning. The talisman was not merely an object. It was a symbol of resistance against a tyranny that had exploited her family's legacy for generations. Its arrival was a sign, a beacon, that called her to reunite the scattered fragments of her identity and to face the dark forces that sought to keep her in ignorance. That very evening, as the city embraced the twilight and streetlights flickered to life, Rhea rendezvoused with Jorak in a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of town. The dilapidated structure, once a bustling hub of industry, now served as a clandestine meeting point for those who straddled the boundary between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Under the veil of night, the warehouse exuded an air of desolation, its concrete walls stained by time and the remnants of past conflicts. Jorak's presence was unmistakable, his posture rigid and his gaze haunted by the burdens of his past. When Rhea entered, the charged silence between them was palpable. "You carry a new sign, one that speaks of hidden truths," he observed, his voice steady yet laden with an undercurrent of sorrow. Rhea extended the talisman for him to see. "It arrived this afternoon," she replied, her voice resolute yet tinged with vulnerability. "I believe it holds the answers about my family, and perhaps about you too." Jorak's eyes narrowed as he examined the talisman, his mind racing through memories of ancient oaths and secret pacts. "This relic belonged to my ancestors," he said, his tone hushed as if he were revealing a sacred truth. "It was lost in the chaos of a betrayal that split our kind apart. For years I have carried the weight of that loss, believing that redemption was out of reach. But now, with you holding it, I sense that the path to atonement may be unfolding before us." Their dialogue, interlaced with both shared pain and tentative hope, wove a complex tapestry of their intertwined destinies. As they spoke, the warehouse seemed to transform, a relic of industrial decay giving way to echoes of a bygone era when supernatural beings walked openly among humans. Each word they exchanged was laden with the promise of reconciliation, yet shadowed by the ever-present threat of ancient enemies lurking just beyond the periphery. The conversation was abruptly interrupted by the sudden sound of shattering glass. Both Rhea and Jorak instinctively reached for each other, their heightened senses alerting them to danger. A group of figures, cloaked in dark garments and moving, with a predatory grace, had breached the warehouse's perimeter. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and the air vibrated with a palpable sense of menace. It was clear they were not mere intruders. They were agents of a hidden faction, determined to reclaim what they believed was rightfully theirs. "Who are they?" Rhea hissed, stepping back as her heart pounded in her ears. Jorak's jaw tightened as he assessed the intruders with a warrior's instinct. "The Sentinels," he murmured, the name laced with both disdain and fear. "They have long sought to control the legacy of our people, to harness our power, for their own twisted purposes. They believe that the truth should be kept buried, hidden from those who would dare to challenge the established order." The confrontation escalated rapidly. The Sentinels moved with calculated precision. Their leader, a tall, imposing figure with eyes that burned like embers, stepped forward and addressed them in a cold, authoritative tone. "Return the relic," he commanded, his voice resonating with the weight of centuries. "It is the key to maintaining the balance, and its power must not be unleashed by those who do not understand its true worth." Jorak's grip on Rhea's hand tightened as he stepped in front of her, a protective barrier formed by his unwavering resolve. "You will not take her or that relic," he declared, his voice echoing with a fierce determination. "Our destiny is not yours to dictate." A tense standoff ensued as the two factions squared off in the shadowy expanse of the warehouse. The air crackled with the energy of impending conflict, a mix of supernatural power and human defiance that threatened to ignite into all-out chaos. Rhea's mind raced as she clutched the talisman tightly, its warmth a stark contrast to the icy tension that permeated the room. She realized that the relic was not merely a symbol of her past. It was the linchpin in a battle for the very soul of her world. Amid the charged silence, one of the Sentinels lunged forward, breaking the fragile equilibrium with a surge of violent intent. Jorak reacted with fluid precision, intercepting the attacker with a display of raw, primal strength that belied his inner turmoil. Their clash was swift and brutal, a flurry of calculated strikes and desperate parries that reverberated through the cavernous space. In that fierce moment, every unresolved secret, every betrayal, and every hope for redemption coalesced into a singular, explosive encounter. Rhea's heart pounded as she watched the conflict unfold, the stakes of their shared destiny crystallizing before her eyes. The echoes of the struggle mingled with the distant rumble of the awakening volcanoes, a reminder that the very earth was an active participant in the unfolding drama. The ancient forces that had once shaped the land were now aligning against those who dared to challenge the hidden powers at play. As the melee reached its fevered pitch, a piercing cry split the air, a sound that was both a battle cry and a lament for what was at stake. In that split second, Rhea's vision blurred with a surge of adrenaline and clarity. The talisman in her hand pulsed once more, its energy intensifying as if resonating with the raw emotions of the confrontation. It was as though the relic itself was urging her to embrace the unknown, to step into a role that transcended fear and defiance. With the balance of power teetering on a knife's edge, Rhea felt a transformation stirring within her, a burgeoning strength born from the convergence of her past and the desperate hope for the future, the legacy of her parents, the weight of ancient betrayal, and the fervent desire for redemption coalesced into a single decisive moment. She knew that to secure the future of her kind, she must stand beside Jorak and confront the darkness head-on. In the ensuing chaos, as the Sentinels regrouped for another assault, Rhea's inner voice rose above the tumult, a fierce declaration of her right to choose her own destiny. "I will not be defined by the sins of those before me," she proclaimed, her voice unwavering even as the danger mounted around her. "I will forge my own path, and in doing so, I will reclaim the legacy that is rightfully mine." Jorak's eyes, burning with a mixture of admiration and renewed determination, met hers in that charged moment. "Then we stand together," he affirmed, his tone resolute. "Against the tyranny of the past, we will shape a future free from the chains of deception and control." The warehouse trembled under the weight of their resolve, the clash of wills echoing like the roar of distant thunder. Every heartbeat, every whispered promise of redemption, built to a crescendo as the confrontation reached its climax. The ancient talisman glowed with an ethereal light, a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. In that moment, it was clear that the relic was not merely a passive artifact, but an active force that would determine the fate of both the supernatural and the human realms. The sentinels paused, their fierce expressions faltering for a heartbeat, as they recognized that the struggle had transformed from a mere contest for power into a battle for the soul of a legacy. Ria's declaration had ignited a spark of defiance in the hearts of those who had long been oppressed by a hidden tyranny. The confrontation, charged with raw emotion and ancient might, was far from over. The warehouse held its breath, suspended in the fragile silence before the inevitable clash resumed, each faction poised on the brink of a confrontation that would redefine their world. And then, as if in answer to an unspoken command, a resounding crash shattered the stillness, the sound of an approaching force that promised to upend the delicate balance. In that charged moment, with the talisman blazing in her hand and the fate of her heritage hanging in the balance, Ria realized that the night's events were only the beginning of a far greater reckoning. The future of both her world and the hidden realm of the shifters teetered on the edge of uncertainty, and every heartbeat brought them closer to a final, irrevocable showdown. In the tense aftermath of the initial clash, as echoes of conflict mingled with the distant, ominous rumble of awakening volcanoes, Ria and Jorak braced themselves for what was to come. Their shared defiance, the strength of a bond forged in the crucible of betrayal and hope, now stood as the last barrier against the relentless tide of oppression. The flickering shadows of the warehouse seemed to coalesce into a single, unified threat, an enemy that was both familiar and terrifying in its resolve to seize control of the legacy they so desperately sought to protect. As the figures of the sentinels regrouped and advanced once more, the warehouse was charged with the electric pulse of imminent conflict, a pulse that mirrored the fiery determination in Ria's heart. Every moment stretched into an eternity, the standoff between the forces of ancient power and the new hope embodied by Ria and Jorak reaching its critical zenith. In that breathless instant, the fate of all that was hidden, all that was forgotten, and all that could be redeemed, hung in a precarious balance. Beyond the shattered remnants of the warehouse, the night's chaos left a trail of smoldering embers and fractured alliances. In the eerie aftermath, Ria and Jorak found themselves on a desolate stretch of an abandoned highway that cut through the urban sprawl like a scar. The distant rumble of restless volcanoes and the whispered murmurs of an ancient land reminded them that the stakes were far higher than any personal vendetta. They were now pawns in a conflict that spanned generations. Ria's pulse thundered in her ears as she glanced over her shoulder. The sentinels had not been fully repelled, their silhouettes, dark and relentless, flickered in the periphery of her vision. With the talisman clutched tightly in her hand, a relic pulsing with enigmatic energy, she led the way, every step an act of defiance against a destiny that sought to define her. Jorak trod close behind, his eyes scanning the darkness with the caution of a seasoned warrior and the burden of centuries etched into his soul. "Do you think they'll follow?" Ria asked in a hushed tone, her voice laced with equal parts resolve and trepidation. Jorak's reply was measured, his gaze fixed on the winding road ahead. "They are persistent. The sentinels will not rest until they reclaim what they believe is theirs. But tonight, we must focus on survival, and on unlocking the secrets that bind us." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden flash of movement in the distance. A sleek black car roared into view, its headlights piercing the darkness like twin beacons of impending peril. As the vehicle screeched to a halt alongside the roadside, a group of figures emerged, their presence as silent as shadows yet as menacing as the storm clouds gathering overhead. Among them was a tall, gaunt man with an inscrutable expression, a figure whose reputation, whispered in secret circles, was synonymous with treachery and betrayal. "Ria Jorak," the man intoned, his voice calm but carrying an unyielding authority. "Your struggle has not gone unnoticed." His eyes, cold and calculating, flicked toward the talisman in Ria's grasp. "I am Lucian, a guardian of the old order. But unlike those you face, my aim is not to extinguish the light within you, but to challenge its authenticity. The tension in the air grew palpable. Rhea's heart pounded as she tried to gauge Lucian's intentions. Was he an ally sent to test their resolve, or a harbinger of further treachery? Jorak's stance hardened as he stepped forward, his voice low and edged with a warning. "We have no quarrel with you, Lucian. Our battle is with those who would enslave our legacy. Explain your purpose." Lucian offered a slight, enigmatic smile before continuing. "I have observed the unfolding of events from the shadows. There are truths you have yet to uncover, truths that even the talisman has not revealed fully. Your family, Rhea, was entwined in a covenant far more profound than you know. And you, Jorak, share a bond with that legacy that defies mere coincidence." A heavy silence fell between them as Lucian's words sank in. Rhea's mind raced, back to the cryptic hints scattered throughout her life, the whispered legends of her parents, the fragmented memories of a home filled with secrets and sorrow, and the inexplicable pull toward the supernatural that had driven her since childhood. "What do you mean?" she pressed, her voice trembling with a mixture of curiosity and fear. Lucian's eyes glimmered with a mix of sorrow and resolve. "Your bloodline was chosen to be the bridge between worlds. Long ago, your ancestors forged a pact with forces both benevolent and malevolent. This pact was meant to protect the realm of shifters from those who would exploit our power. In doing so, they sacrificed their normal lives for a destiny intertwined with both light and darkness. But that covenant was marred by betrayal. Betrayal that continues to haunt us all." As he spoke, the distant echoes of the volcanic tremors grew louder, reverberating through the night as if affirming his ominous declaration. Jorak exchanged a troubled look with Rhea. "Betrayal," he echoed, his voice rough with emotion. "Who among us could betray such sacred trust?" Lucian's response was measured. There was one who coveted power above all else, a traitor who sought to sever the ties between the supernatural and the mortal realms for his own gain. That treachery set in motion a chain of events that culminated in the formation of the Sentinels, who now seek to control the legacy through fear and subjugation. But there is more. The talisman you hold, Rhea, is not merely a key, it is also a seal, one that can either preserve the ancient covenant or shatter it forever. The gravity of Lucian's words pressed down on them. Rhea felt as though the ground beneath her feet was shifting, mirroring the upheaval within her heart. "Then what must we do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "How can we stop this cycle of betrayal and reclaim what was lost?" Lucian's gaze softened, and he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The path to redemption lies in confronting the darkness within and the darkness without. You must journey to the heart of the ancient lands, to the temple where your family once safeguarded the covenant. There, you will find the truth and the power to either restore balance or condemn us all to oblivion." Before Rhea could respond, the thunder of approaching footsteps signaled that the fragile moment of revelation was being shattered by the relentless advance of their foes. The sentinels, their eyes glistening with fanatical fervor, began to encircle the small group. Their leader, the ember-eyed figure from the warehouse confrontation, reappeared with renewed vigor. "The relic must be returned," he commanded, his tone brooking no argument. "And with it, the fate of your bloodline will be decided." Jorak's muscles tensed, every sense on high alert. "We will never surrender," he declared, his voice a battle cry that resonated with the determination of a man who had known too much loss to accept defeat. "Our legacy belongs to those who dare to choose their own destiny." The standoff erupted into chaos as the sentinels surged forward. Lucian, stepping into the fray, unleashed a flurry of precise movements that blended martial prowess with a subtle, almost imperceptible supernatural aura. The confrontation became a maelstrom of clashing wills, a furious dance of shadows and sparks under the indifferent gaze of the night sky. Amid the tumult, Rhea's mind reeled with conflicting emotions. Every step she took, every breath, was laden with the weight of ancestral expectations. The talisman in her hand vibrated with an inner fire, as if urging her toward an uncertain destiny. In the midst of the clamor, she caught a glimpse of a faded inscription on the talisman, a series of symbols that began to glow softly in the chaos. "Look," she cried, drawing Jorak's attention to the shifting runes. They're changing, as if reacting to the conflict. Jorak's eyes narrowed. It is awakening. Perhaps it is time to unlock its true power. But before they could act, a sudden explosion of supernatural energy swept across the battlefield, a shockwave that sent both allies and foes sprawling. The force of the blast knocked Lucian off his feet and scattered the sentinels in all directions. In that pivotal moment, as the dust and sparks filled the air, a hidden figure emerged from the swirling chaos. Draped in a cloak woven with shadows and secrets, the newcomer's presence was both mesmerizing and terrifying. Enough blood has been spilled in the name of a corrupted legacy, the cloaked figure intoned, their voice resonating with an eerie calm that cut through the madness. The cycle of betrayal must end tonight. Rhea and Jorak exchanged wary glances as the mysterious figure advanced. The air around them shimmered with a palpable energy, a convergence of ancient power, and the promise of renewal. The cloaked figure raised a hand, and with a gesture that defied time, the chaotic battlefield fell eerily silent. In that suspended heartbeat, every combatant froze as if held in the grip of an unseen force. The figure continued, I am Seraphine, the keeper of truths long buried. I have watched over the covenant, waiting for the moment when its heirs would rise to challenge the darkness. The betrayal that fractured our world can be mended, but only if the chosen can reconcile the sins of the past with the hope of a new dawn. Her words struck Rhea like a bolt of lightning. The secrets of her lineage, the guilt that had haunted Jorak, and the relentless pursuit of the Sentinels suddenly converged into a singular, undeniable truth. In the luminous glow of the talisman, now burning brighter than ever, Rhea saw a reflection of her ancestors, of sacrifice, love, and the burden of unfulfilled promises. Seraphine's eyes, deep and knowing, swept over the assembled figures. You stand at the precipice of a turning point, she declared. The power to restore balance lies within you, but to seize it, you must confront the darkness not only around you but within yourselves. Redemption is not granted. It is earned through the courage to face one's own demons. As Seraphine's words echoed in the silence, the forces of the Sentinels began to dissipate like shadows at dawn. Their leader, defiant even in retreat, hissed a final threat before vanishing into the night. Lucian, slowly rising, looked at Rhea with a newfound respect mingled with sorrow. Perhaps in this crucible of conflict, we have a chance to rewrite our destiny, he murmured. The surreal calm that followed was charged with the promise of transformation. Rhea, feeling the weight of destiny intertwine with the fierce longing for autonomy, stepped forward. I will not be a pawn in a game of ancient grudges, she proclaimed, her voice steady and resolute. I will reclaim the legacy of my blood and shape a future where betrayal and sorrow no longer hold sway. Jorak joined her, his presence a steadfast counterpoint to her determination. Together, he affirmed, we will confront the shadows of our past and build a future defined by hope, not fear. In that moment, with Seraphine's enigmatic guidance and the talisman's power surging like a beacon in the darkness, the fractured remnants of their world began to coalesce. The pathway to the ancient temple, a place where the covenant was once sanctified, revealed itself in a shimmering corridor of light and shadow. Yet, as they prepared to embark on the next phase of their perilous journey, an undercurrent of uncertainty remained. The revelations of the night had unearthed wounds that demanded healing, and the secrets that lay ahead promised to test every ounce of their resolve. As the first tendrils of dawn crept over the horizon, bathing the scarred landscape in a muted glow, the assembled group, each marked by loss, hope, and the burning desire for redemption, stepped forward as one. Every footstep resonated with the silent vow that they would no longer be defined by the sins of the past, but by the promise of a future forged in the crucible of their trials. With hearts ablaze and destinies intertwined, they moved toward the ancient temple, where the final confrontation with their inner demons and external adversaries awaited. In the charged quiet of that pre-dawn moment, as the promise of renewal mingled with the lingering echoes of betrayal and pain, the journey into the heart of mystery and redemption began anew. Every shadow whispered secrets of bygone eras, and every ray of light carried the hope of rebirth. With a final resolute glance between Rhea and Jorak, the group embraced the uncertain path ahead, a path that would demand sacrifice, courage, and the unwavering belief in the power of transcendence. In the hushed prelude of a new day, the ancient temple loomed before the assembled group, a monolithic structure that had weathered centuries of strife and silence. Its crumbling facade bore the scars of betrayal and time, yet within its depths resided the promise of absolution. Rhea, Jorak, Seraphine, Lucian, and their newfound allies gathered at the threshold, each carrying the weight of their past transgressions and the fragile hope of redemption. The talisman pulsed in Rhea's hand, its glow a silent metronome echoing the steady rhythm of their collective heartbeat. Inside the temple, corridors of moss-covered stone led them into a grand sanctuary illuminated by shafts of light that broke through cracks in the ancient ceiling. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and lingering incense, a timeless reminder of sacred rituals and unspoken oaths. As the group advanced cautiously, the sound of their footsteps on the stone floor melded with an almost imperceptible as though the temple itself was awakening from a long slumber. At the center of the sanctuary stood a colossal mural, a tapestry of legends etched in vibrant frescoes that depicted the rise and fall of empires, the intertwined destinies of mortal and supernatural, and a covenant forged in blood and sacrifice. Rhea's eyes were drawn to a particular scene, a depiction of a woman with eyes like burning embers, standing resolute amid chaos. The woman's features mirrored Rhea's own, and for a moment, she felt as if she were staring into the mirror of her ancestry. Seraphine stepped forward, her voice soft yet resonant. "This is the origin of the covenant," she explained. "Your family, Rhea, were its first keepers. They believed that only through the union of light and shadow could balance be restored to our worlds." Her eyes met Rhea's, conveying the gravity of the revelation. That woman, your ancestor, was both a visionary and a sacrificial guardian. Her choice was to unite our realms, even if it meant sacrificing her mortal life. As the murmurs of the group faded into a contemplative silence, a hidden mechanism within the mural clicked into motion. The fresco's painted figures seemed to shimmer, and slowly, the wall receded to reveal a secret chamber. The chamber was small and circular, its walls adorned with intricate carvings that echoed the symbols on the talisman. In the center lay a stone dais, upon which rested an ancient crystalline artifact, the Heart of the Covenant. Jorak approached the dais, his eyes filled with a mixture of reverence and apprehension. "This artifact," he murmured, "is the culmination of our heritage. It holds the power to heal the rifts that have long divided us, but it demands a sacrifice, a willingness to let go of old grievances." Lucian, who had watched the unfolding events with solemn intensity, added, "The betrayal that shattered the bond between the supernatural and the mortal worlds must now be reconciled. The artifact can mend what has been torn apart, but only if its bearers come together in unity." His gaze shifted to Rhea. "The talisman you possess is the key. It was crafted to awaken the heart of the covenant, and in doing so, to reveal the truth that has been hidden for generations." Rhea felt a stirring within her, a merging of fear and resolve. With trembling hands, she raised the glowing talisman toward the crystalline artifact. The light intensified, casting dancing reflections on the ancient stones. As the energy from the talisman met the artifact, the chamber trembled. A cascade of luminous symbols erupted into the air, swirling around the group like fragments of lost memories and promises once made. In that transformative moment, the secrets of the past surged forth. Rhea's mind was awash with visions. Scenes of her parents' clandestine meetings, the silent sacrifices they made to uphold the covenant, and the painful betrayals inflicted by those who coveted power. The revelation was overwhelming, yet it brought clarity. The ancient covenant had been broken by the very desire to control it, a desire that had spawned the sentinels and the cycles of conflict that plagued their world. Seraphine's voice cut through the chaos of visions. "The truth is not merely a burden to be borne. It is the path to your liberation. Embrace it, Rhea. Let it guide you toward healing the wounds of our past." Her words resonated deeply, a soothing balm amidst the storm of revelation. Jorak stepped closer, placing a steady hand on Rhea's shoulder. "You have the strength to unite the divided, to forge a future where our differences are not weapons, but bridges. Today, you reclaim your destiny, and with it, our collective hope." His tone was firm, infused with the certainty of a man who had long struggled against the tides of fate. As the chamber bathed in the radiant glow of unity, the crystalline artifact pulsed once more, its light now steady and benevolent. The symbols that had swirled in the air slowly descended, embedding themselves into the stone floor like a new foundation. In that moment, the ancient curse that had long bound the supernatural to cycles of despair began to dissolve. The betrayal that had fractured families and divided realms was transformed into a shared memory, a lesson of sacrifice and the need for redemption. Lucian, his eyes reflecting both relief and sorrow, spoke softly. "The past cannot be undone, but its scars can become the source of strength. Let us honor those who suffered, and let their sacrifice be the seed of our rebirth." His words, laden with both regret and hope, stirred the group into a renewed resolve. The power of the heart of the Covenant, now awakened, promised a future where the boundaries between mortal and shifter could finally be bridged. The crystalline artifact's glow expanded, filling the sanctuary with a warm, encompassing light. One by one, the members of the group felt their burdens lift, old resentments softened, and the wounds of past betrayals began to knit together with threads of forgiveness. Rhea, standing at the epicenter of this transformation, felt an indescribable shift within her. The revelations of her lineage, the painful truths of betrayal, and the promise of unity converged into a single transformative purpose. In a final poignant act of redemption, Rhea knelt before the heart of the Covenant. With a steadying breath, she pressed the talisman against the crystalline surface. A surge of energy coursed through her, uniting her essence with that of her ancestors and the ancient guardians of the Covenant. The energy spiraled outward, enveloping everyone present in a luminous embrace. It was a moment of transcendent unity, a symbol of reconciliation that mended the fractures between the supernatural and mortal realms. The temple walls, once echoing with the mournful laments of lost eras, now reverberated with a collective promise. In that hallowed space, the cycle of betrayal was irrevocably broken, replaced by a bond forged in truth, sacrifice, and the indomitable will to forge a better future. Rhea rose, her eyes alight with newfound clarity and strength. "Our past will no longer dictate our future," she declared, her voice resonating with the power of generations. "Today, we choose to heal, to forgive, and to build a world where the legacy of our ancestors is not a chain, but a beacon of hope." Jorak joined her side, his gaze steady and resolute. "We have fought against the tides of fate for too long. Let this be the dawn of a new era, a time when the wounds of yesterday give rise to the promise of tomorrow." His words, both a benediction and a declaration, stirred the hearts of all who listened. Seraphine stepped forward, her expression softening with the satisfaction of a long-awaited truth unveiled. "The Covenant has been restored. The power to heal and to transform now lies within each of you. Carry this light into the world and let it guide you through every shadow." Her voice, a gentle echo of ancient wisdom, wove through the sanctuary like a lullaby of hope. Lucian, once a harbinger of ominous warnings, now offered a rare, genuine smile. "May the lessons of the past be the foundation of our unity. We have faced the darkness, and now, together, we embrace the light." His tone, imbued with both relief and resolve, resonated as a vow to honor the sacrifices of those who came before. As the group slowly exited the temple, the first rays of a new sun spilled over the horizon, bathing the world in a tender glow. The urban skyline and wild landscapes beyond the ancient walls seemed to merge into a harmonious tapestry, a symbol of the new era that awaited. The once fractured realms of the supernatural and the mortal now pulsed with the promise of collaboration and healing. In the days that followed, news of the temple's awakening spread quietly through both communities. Those who had once been embroiled in ceaseless conflict now found themselves drawn together by the shared memory of redemption. The sentinels, stripped of their authority by the revelation of their own treachery, dispersed into obscurity, their bitter ambitions rendered powerless by the unity of purpose that had been rekindled. Rhea and Jorak emerged not merely as survivors of a tumultuous past, but as torchbearers for a brighter future. Their love, once forged in the crucible of captivity and conflict, had evolved into a profound partnership defined by mutual respect and unwavering commitment. Together, they worked tirelessly to rebuild the bridges between their worlds, to transform ancient grudges into opportunities for growth, and to ensure that the painful lessons of history were never forgotten, but always served as a reminder of the cost of division. In quiet moments, Rhea would reflect on the journey that had led her here, the secret meetings, the betrayals, the countless battles fought in the name of legacy. Each memory, however painful, had culminated in this transformative act of redemption. The restored covenant was more than an ancient ritual. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the unyielding desire to overcome even the deepest scars. As seasons passed and the once warring factions began to share in the fruits of a newly united realm, the story of that fateful night in the temple became legend, a beacon for future generations. Parents recounted the tale to their children, teaching them that even in the darkest of times, hope could ignite change, and unity could dissolve the strongest of bonds of betrayal. On a quiet evening, beneath a sky ablaze with stars, Rhea and Jorak stood side by side at the summit of a gentle hill overlooking the city. The soft hum of reconciliation filled the air, a reminder that the choices they had made had not only reshaped their destinies, but had also set in motion a ripple effect that would heal the fractures of their world. In that serene moment of reflective silence, they exchanged a look, a silent vow that their journey was a promise to all who still sought the light. With hearts that had been hardened by struggle now softened by the power of redemption, they turned their eyes toward the horizon, a future bright with possibility and promise. The legacy of pain and betrayal had given way to a new chapter, one where the strength of unity and the courage to forgive could transform even the most devastating wounds into a legacy of eternal hope. The ancient temple, a silent sentinel of bygone eras, now stood as a monument to renewal, a reminder that even the most shattered past can be pieced together to create a future defined not by despair, but by the luminous strength of reconciliation. Every brick, every faded inscription, now whispered the story of a covenant reborn, a story that would guide the generations to come toward a destiny of boundless compassion and unyielding light. And as the sun finally rose to crown the horizon with its golden promise, Rhea, Jorak, and all who had borne witness to the transformation of their world took their first steps into a future unburdened by old sins, a future built on forgiveness, unity, and the timeless power of truth.